All right. Stream is up, and I believe we should be live. Um, for anybody who's joining in, watching in afterwards, hello. Hope that all is good. I'm just gonna make sure that things are working on the live stream, that people can hear me, such like that. So just give me a couple seconds to get that all figured out. I'm gonna let kind of people join in as they can. I have it pulled up on my iPad. All right, sounds like that's good. Sweet. All right. Well, obviously, there's nobody here, and I'm not really expecting a ton of people to join this. But if you're watching this day of, welcome. I hope you have a great, or you're having an amazing Memorial Day so far. And just gonna give it a couple more minutes, see if we can see if anybody else wants to join in. And we're just gonna make sure everything is all set. So if you're watching this, you can hear me. Please feel free to let me know. And if there's anything that happens like in the recording process throughout this, just please feel free to message it in chat because I'm gonna have this open. So um, and just have a little bit of grace. This is my first time ever doing this. So, but yeah, welcome one, welcome all. I guess we can get started. So, I guess, hello, what's up? My name is Ethan Jermain, and welcome to chapter 15 of diving deeper into my album, Snow Globe. Today, we are going to dive into the lore and the story that goes on underneath this whole grand story. This live stream will be uploaded um, after the fact. I'm going to try to save it so that if anybody wants to watch this afterwards, that they can. But today, what we're going to do is we're essentially going to go through the things that make up the story that has been going on underneath Snow Globe this pretty much entire time that the album has been promoted and the entire time this album has been out. We're going to go through a couple of music videos. We're going to go through we're going to use information from a Instagram page that has been essentially been the main source of all this information. And hopefully by the end of today, I'm going to try to keep it kind of brief. I have a family dinner at 5:30 that I'm going to go to, but hopefully by the end of today, you'll have a greater appreciation for the story of Snow Globe, and also you'll know a lot more about College Chronicles and how that story also works in tangent with the real story. So I guess with that being said, I'm gonna get I'm gonna share my screen so that people see what I'm seeing. All right, that looks good. So now I'm over here. I'm just gonna check on the live stream once again on my iPad, just make sure that you can see what I can see. Give me a second. Give me a second. It's loading. Might have shared the wrong window. I believe I did that. Whoops. Take two. Yeah. Um, you know what? Let me do this. So I have like all my other stuff in a window, but I will just transfer that over to this one. There we go. So this will be a lot easier. Again, give me a little bit of grace. This is my first time ever doing this, so any grace will be much appreciated. But now if we go like this, share. All right, you see that? Now let's see if this works on my screen. Okay, we are good. So, everybody, welcome to the College Chronicles digital journal Instagram page. This is going to kind of be our main source for all the questions and all the sourcing that we use for this. I'm also just going to pull up the chat so we can have it. But this is going to be our main place that we use to pull like our information from. As you can see, it's called the Chronicles digital journal page. Its name is technically Kennel, and then welcome to College Chronicles Act 1, saturation level 100%. This links to something I'll explain in a bit. But here is the place that I've posted the most about all of this stuff. Um, so we're just going to kind of dive into it. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through both College Chronicles Act 0 and College Chronicles Act 1. So even though the title of the stream says College Chronicles Act 1 Explain, we're also going to hit College Chronicles Act 0 because that is an important part of this story. So it all started back on May 27th, 2023. So almost exactly a year ago today. Um, this is significant just because May 27th is the day that I graduated high school, and so that has significance in the story. But you can see, welcome to College Chronicles Act 0, link initiated, saturation level 0%. So this has been going on for a year, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through kind of each post. I'm not going to give line for line explanations, but we're going to go through each of them, and then this is going to kind of give you the better idea of what this story is going to say. So we have the legend here, just as we can kind of get our bearings. You have the timer, informational tabs, journal entries, the map, notifications, and then character IDs. These are going to be kind of the most important things that are covered in this page. And just for some general information, the College Chronicles digital journal is the open access link page to the information surrounding the city of Sabata Spicati, the story of Kinnel, the world of In Mundo Imaginationis, otherwise referred to as Imaginationis, and the 2X story of College Chronicles. In this journal, you will find information that others will not. You will know more about the story than others. Welcome to College Chronicles. So this was posted again on the same day, May 27th, a year ago. And that was much before I had ever even said the word College Chronicles as an independent artist. So that just kind of shows how much this has been building and how long this has been in production. And to kind of just explain a couple things right here, this is a good place to look at world building and setting for this project. So the story that happens that we're going to dive in today happens in the world of Mundo Imaginationis. Now, translated from Latin, that means in a world of dreams or a world of imagination, and it's referred to as Imaginationis normally. So that's kind of the world in which this story revolves around. However, there are also parts of the real world that happens, and there's some connections, but primarily this story happens in Imaginationis in the city of Savata Spicati, and that's translated from Latin, the city of sin, which has implications, and then the story of Kinnel, who will be kind of our hero / our main character. So if we move on, and then the one other thing that we had on that same day is the first journal entry. So this is kind of really where College Chronicles Act 0 started. And as kind of like a preface of how we're going to do this, I'm going to kind of go through each slide, hit on some of the biggest things. And then I'm not going to go line for some of this, but because you guys can read, you guys can pause the stream, you guys can go to this page. I don't need to read everything verbatim, but we're going to hit the most important parts, and then we'll keep on going. So this is journal entry 0.5. And I'll go to the end really quick. It's written by EJ, which is the main character I play, or one of the main characters I play. So essentially, what happens in this journal entry is the events of the Memories trilogy. For the Memories era, I made 3 music videos. If I pop over to this right here, you can kind of see it. My Roots, The Window, and Memories. Did that go? Okay, that's going fine. So you have these 3 music videos, and then I have a couple other things in this kind of folder, in this playlist on YouTube. But this essentially narrates the story that goes on under that. So essentially, it starts with myself writing essentially about what has happened in the past. How on 3/20/2020 or 3/20/2020, March 20th, 2020, the world shut down, referencing to the pandemic. This just kind of is me looking back on the Memories era and what happened there. However, I also talk about a little bit of the story that these trilogies go, or that the trilogy goes through. So you get lines like, "The world remained offline for many following months. During that time, I started having these weird visions or dreams of a person who looked just like me wearing a red plaid hoodie." So this little section here references to the My Roots music video when um, music's going and you get this shot. So this right here is kind of a precursor of the events of the window. And keep this in mind. I'm going to explain this a little bit later. But repeated dreams have a scientific explanation in this world. And Ethan, this character, started experiencing that in this time. So he sees visions of a person with a red plaid hoodie, but learns to pay no attention to it. So that's the events of the My Roots music video. Then um, you go on and you get the events of the Windows video. So Ethan is sitting in Mr. Kane's room. Also, Mr. Kane, I love you so much. Such a great guy. He's pondering the idea of college, but then this dream starts to happen in real life. He sees the person um, from his dreams. I'll pull this up really quick. Walking throughout the hallway. Um, letting it load real quick. So I believe this starts kind of in verse 2 of this song. So yeah. So essentially, he looks up, he sees the person with the red plaid hoodie walking throughout the hallway, just like how he dreamed it to be. He follows him, and eventually he reaches out and reaches this world of wonder and imagination. So um, that references the lines. I saw him walking through the hallways. I followed him. Eventually, he led me to a door. Um, and the world, or the destination beyond the door, was astonishing. It was like a world of its own, connected to the one I was used to. However, it was beautiful, waking up in a vibrant forest right here. Um, my senses were stimulated, and I took a second to take it in. Obviously, this trilogy of music videos is really important because it represents me learning the importance of making the most of it all with knowing how tomorrow's going to go. So the way I wanted to portray that in the trilogy was like when Ethan goes into this world that he finds, he takes us to take it all in. And like that's kind of the first instance of learning this lesson. And then the music video goes on. Um, just I realized that taking a chance can really yield amazing results, which was really noting the looming decision of college that was on his mind. Um, but then he felt an impact on his chest, woke up in Kane's room, and that reference is one of my favorite, or possibly one of my favorite parts of the video, which is everything goes white, and then bang. Mr. Kane threw a marker at me, and you can see it in my face, like the anticipation, like I knew it was coming. Uh, so that was kind of a fun thing to shoot. But I woke up in Kane, or Ethan wakes up in Kane's classroom like nothing happened at all, just goes on with his life, thinks it's another dream. Then it comes graduation day. So another important bit, 5/27/2021, May 27th, 2021 is the day that I graduated. So that is the day that the Memories music video officially takes place in. So you get in this entry the events that happen in that video. Ethan is walking across the hallway, sees the boy with the red plaid hoodie before the ceremony. Um, here's a and like goes into the auditorium. So that's kind of like what happens right here. He goes across, he looks back. Oh, what's going on? He walks into the auditorium and sees the person with the red hoodie. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quick jump forward and I'm going to talk about characters, because these two characters are really important for the story and they're important for right now. So we have Ethan Jermain, otherwise known as EJ. This is the person that signed and wrote Journal Entry zero point 0.5. 18 years old. Role is the writer. This is really important. Don't forget this. Last known sighting was Highcliffe State Park. We'll also get to that in a second. And notes he's the writer of A Splash of Colors, Press Pause, and Memories. Currently has position of aider and about to start a new phase in life, college. That was posted June 24th. This was the second real post leading up to the drop of College Chronicles. But then we have Ader. Now, this is kind of the first one of, or this is the primary character that's not necessarily Ethan in this story. So, age unknown, but the role is a helper and a friend. So, he started appearing in Ethan's dreams. The true encounter was on that May 17th, 2021. And essentially, going through life and following the dreams, Ader helped Ethan learn the importance of making the most of it all and coming to the terms of coming to the terms of the end of an era. And he just after the true encounter, leaving his hoodie behind. So, also, I hope that live stream is going good. It looks laggy on my screen, which is kind of weird, but hopefully it's all good. But again, this is like the first time I'm doing this, so if it ends up really crappy, that's unfortunate. But yeah, so we come back here. Ethan walks into the big auditorium. He meets up with Ader. He asks him if he's ready to move on. And then here's a really important part. Ader explains that the world that Ethan had entered in Kane's room wasn't just a dream, but it was more, it was real. But then he asks the question, are you ready to move on? So this is really important because actually what happened in the events of the window is Ethan unknowingly entered Imaginatonus. As a world of imagination, this was his first encounter with it. And Eric kind of brushes this off because he knows it's not like the most important part of this encounter. And thus he asks, are you ready to move on? Ready to move on to like this next part of your life? But that really set the precedent that Ethan has entered Imaginatonus before. So keep that in the back of your mind. This is going to be important in a second. Essentially, after that, Ethan says yes. And that's when he like takes the hoodie, or before that happens, Ethan like comes to the terms that he's ready to move on, and then Ader disappears. The reason behind this is something I'm actually not going to explain today, but when we explain Act 2's lore, so give me some time on that. But there is something that happened in this moment for why Ader disappeared and only his hoodie was left behind. But Ethan takes it, goes to the cliff, and that is kind of what happens in the Memories music video. You see him with the shirt. So this right here is Ethan. This isn't Ader. And you can see like the cliff and the sunset that should have happened. Essentially, the day we filmed this, it really wasn't the best day, but it's all good. So yeah, that is the events of the Memories music video. And this journal entry leaves off with Ethan taking a lesson with him and being like, all right, I'm going to make the most of this life no matter what happens tomorrow. And the bus that is arriving that's going to take him to college arrives soon. So that's where journal entry 0.5 ends. Kind of like the biggest chunk of lore for College Chronicles Act 0. So, yeah, I know that's a lot, but hopefully that kind of makes sense in the coolest way possible. But now let's buzz through the rest of College Chronicles Act 0. So right here you have a timer. So link availability, Act 0 is online. Act 1 initiation, 8 23, 2023. So this references the heading out, or the first heading out, or bleh, the heading out single release date. The For World Immersion Act 1, this is Snow Globe's release date. This isn't technically right because we had to push the album back. I couldn't go back to change it, but there is an explanation for that in the lore, so don't worry about it. Act 2 references like standby production is underway, and then link availability termination will be on 5 20 5/17, 2025. And that's essentially the day that I'm going to graduate college. So this kind of world, have it available on May 27th, 2023. In reality, kind of 2021 when my college journey started, and it's going to end when my college journey ends. So this is kind of like your timeline for it all. We already went through the IDs. And then you get a lot of like posts on this page that kind of build up and set up College Chronicles and Snow Globe specifically. So you have this post, which is like you have Morse code going on in the background saying heading out, with the picture of the Memories album art with the single art of heading out in the background. And then other things that are kind of like that are the CC Act Zero original interlude, which is the same song as the Snow Globe prelude, because that's kind of how I viewed it. I talked a little bit about that in the Interlude 3 Diving Deeper video. And then also the Treasure Hunt was a 4-stop little adventure where people could go. I think it went here, and then to the Spotify bio, and then to an Instagram post, ultimately leading to the Moments After the Sunset video, which I'll talk about in a sec. And then, so ultimately, this was kind of like a way to start building the anticipation for College Chronicles and for Snow Globe. But what I want to talk about now is the Light Bridge, as we start to get closer to the events of the Heading Out music video. So a couple things to know for the Light Bridge is it acts as a portal, and essentially for users who have had contact with Imaginatonis, when a link availability goes online, crossing the bridge will enable them to have eyes in the world via an avatar. The bridge will not allow users without the correct link to pass through. The invisible defense wall will stay up. The two will be separated physically and will go through different stories. However, the user will be able to know what's happening in the other stories. And specifically in the cases of a writer, the writers will be able to influence the story. So this is an important thing for the world of Snow Globe and of College Chronicles, and we're going to talk a lot about this when we reach the Heading Out music video. But just kind of in the back of your mind, the Light Bridge acts as a portal for people and creates an avatar for the users who have had contact with Imaginatonis. Let's see what else is up here. I think that's pretty much it. So the last kind of three that close out College Chronicles Act Zero are the video of Moments After the Sunset, which is the start of the Heading Out music video, and Journal Entry 1, which gives us Ethan's thoughts in that little section. So like the darkest night with the brightest neon blue stars. It doesn't feel real. After Ader disappeared, I have a newfound confidence. The sunset is gone. His code is now mine, and is a nice reminder of what I've done and leaving behind. So this is right as Ethan gets on the bus in the music video. The future is still uncertain. I still don't know how long this ride will go. But there's something that happens in this. My mind is spinning with the possibilities, like small squares spinning inside of each other. Maybe I'm just tired. It's been a day, but I plan on getting some rest after I complete this century. But there is something in my mind that suggests otherwise. The future is unknown, yet here I am. I'm heading out. So again, written by EJ, and this describes the events that happen in this section of the video. Ethan looks at the cliff. He stands up. He grabs his backpack. He walks to the bus stop, and then he's on the bus thinking about his life and how it's going to go. the little my mind is spinning with the possibility references this part right here. Bang, that right there. So I don't know if I'll be able to get on the exact frame of it. It's a little bit less. Maybe okay, not quite. Give me a second. Right there. Okay, a little bit farther. It only like shows up for a second, but essentially the light bridge flashes. Um, and this is another example of a repeated dream. So remember how Ethan had the repeated dreams about seeing Ader in the Memories trilogy? It's happening again. Is essentially what we were trying to get there in that section. But then, if you've seen the music video, you know it doesn't really quite go that well. Something goes wrong. Everybody is gone, and the bus crashes. Um, with this awesome and amazing, very true effects that we were able to get with the very high budget music video that we were able to make. But Ethan gets off of the bus, runs towards this bridge, and then he's at the light bridge that we just talked about. So let's talk about journal entry number 2 really quick, because this kind of describes what happens after Ethan like takes his head down, he takes some rest, but then he wakes up. So he writes that after falling asleep on the bus, he experienced a image of a bridge like a vision, like I just talked about. So again, this is kind of the repeated dreams, things that we're starting to get at. Everybody was gone, and then he tries to stop the bus, but there's nothing that could happen. It was on a vision course with another thing, and boom, bus crashes. When he comes to, he like gets up, he gets out of the bus, but then something's chasing him, so he runs. Essentially, this journal entry gives a lot more context to what's actually happening in the Heading Out music video. And I believe these 2 journal entries were written before we filmed the Heading Out music video. So this just gives it a lot more context. And to hit on the repeated dreams thing, but with every step I took as he's running, the vision of the bridge flashed in my mind, each one more vivid, saturated, and alive than the previous. This couldn't be a coincidence, right? Then he sees the small path that veers off the road. He runs to it, and then he sees the bridge. So, remembering what we just talked about, users who have had contact with Imaginatonis when they cross the light bridge can have an avatar in that world. So, Ethan runs through, he crosses the bridge, doesn't look back, and then continues to write. So, that's kind of what happens here. And he has an avatar now in this world. So that's what this scene right here is all about. Ethan's running through the bridge, and boom, you see this new character running. Bang. So we'll talk about who this is in a second. But essentially, this is Ethan's avatar, who lives in Imaginatonis. So we have the real world with Ethan, and then Imaginatonis with this character. And then he keeps on going. Ethan wakes up in the bus completely fine and continues on. So it might have just been a dream or something. I wonder what that really was. But our character here, Kinnell, gets up, he walks away, he starts to write down these entries, and then he shows up at this opening where you can see the city of Savatas Pacati. And that's kind of what this talks about right here. So journal entry number 2 is written by Kinnell because after Ethan runs through the light bridge, Kinnell's character continues on this path. He hears the sirens chasing him. He thinks that there has to be a reason behind the visions and the dreams being true, the people vanishing, the bus crashing, and arriving at where he is. So this is where the split happens. And this is where the story no longer starts focusing on Ethan, but rather starts to truly focus on Kimmel. And this is kind of our character that we're going to be revolving around for a lot of this story. So to dive a little bit deeper into him, essentially 18 years old, roll the avatar. Um, Working with the logic of what the Lightbridge says, Kinnell is Ethan's avatar into College Chronicles. He's my avatar, so I can look into this world. Date of birth 10402. Last known sightings the outskirts of Savatas Picati. That was the last shot right here in the Heading Out music video. He wears a black coat with a blue hoodie under, crossed the light bridge and passed out, traveled to Savatas Picati on foot after waking up, and collapsed after seeing the skyline. So this is all in the Heading Out music video. If you want to see like a better, smoother depiction of all of this that I'm talking about, that's where you can find it. But this is kind of like, unfortunately, this is the last music video we were able to make for Snow Globe. I really do wish we could have made more, but just with college and life, it was kind of impossible to get another lore-based music video to be produced. But I really like the idea of like having my music videos have lore and have a bigger story. So when it came time to make College Chronicles and Snow Globe, I knew I wanted to kind of build off the music videos and the trilogy that I had made in Memories. So this is the continuation of that. And this gets us to the end of Act 0 and the official beginning of Act 1. And this dropped August 22nd, 2023, which was the day that Heading Out released. So there's a lot of correlations between College Chronicles, like this story right here, and Snow Globe. So now let's go on to the bus log. So again, this is another thing referencing back to Heading Out. Essentially, in this world, the way I like to think of it, I guess, what is it called? PTA bus log. The PTA bus company is required to give logs for their things. So you hear Steve, hopefully you can hear this. So that was the first log. I hope you could hear that. If not, go to this page, listen to it again. Steve Bagels gave this. Steve Bagels was the driver of the bus that Ethan was driving in, or Ethan was taking to go to college. He references things like starting in the High Cliff State Park, going through Madison, Dubuque, but then taking a detour, which is weird. Remember this later because that shouldn't have happened, but the bus had to take a roundabout way that somehow got them very close to the bridge. So remember this. Um, you get the next one at 3:37. Essentially, I'll kind of blaze through this. He's wait, what's this? Oh, actually, I don't know. It's important. Okay, so you hear Save Bagels like they made it to Des Moines. The boy with the red flannel walked away. That was kind of like the last shot of interlude number one. But then you get this. You get an error message by Damien uh, Lepargo, who is a governor of the Imperium, and essentially there's a lot of static. And he says that Kinnell or Ethan crossed the light bridge, and Kinnell made his way to Savatas Picati just as planned. So you already see, or you can already start to see things that are like, oh, something's going on here. And then I think this last one is that was just a fun last take that we took. So Noah Matthew voiced Steve Baggles. Huge shout out. That was a kind of fun thing to do. But yeah, in this bus log, you just hear the driver of the bus that Ethan rode in give like a little bit of extra narrative. So yeah, I'm going to go over the maps in a second, but now we're just going to kind of go through this content. So the next stop that we hear of our friend Kinnell is him waking up in a weird place, but he's on city streets, which is weird. So somehow, after he collapsed in the end of the Heading Out music video, he wakes up in the city. His clothes change to black joggers and white shoes instead of shorts and Vans. If I break the fourth wall, the reason for this is because continuity issues were a pain to deal with as we're recording and filming the content. So that's kind of like my explanation for it. He doesn't know how it happens. I didn't know how it happens, but his clothes were changed. His buildings, or the buildings, are tower overing him, and he can't see a way out of the metropolis. He does not know where he is. In reality, he is in Savata Spicati. While starting to come conscious, he finds a menu screen. So what that is like he can access this page, and he is the one who is posting his journal entries in this page. So he can access this on his phone. He can see a notification page, general information like the light bridge and the stuff like that, a place to keep entries, a couple pages that are inaccessible now, a map, yada yada this, yada that, and a timer. He finds the timer really interesting, but he has a lot of time, so he's not really worried about it. He observes a sign called The Travelers, which is something that he finds really interesting because that's kind of what he is. And he's essentially really lost. He has no idea where he is. He has a lot of questions, and it's like not keeping up. And kind of what this entry correlates to is 19. So in that music, or in that song, I talk a lot about like, oh, there's a lot of different paths in front of me. I don't know where I'm going. Am I different? Am I going to be the same person you remember when I come back home? So that's kind of his questions. And what you're going to see as we go further along in these journal entries are the journal entries and the songs of Snow Globe are very correlated. Obviously, journal entry number 1 was very similar. Was like the first part of the Heading Out music video. Journal entry 2 was the second half. So both of those work with Heading Out. This one works with 19. And if you see these bold letters, those are normally lyrics. So will I be the same person they remember when I am 19? So try to find the ways that the journal entries and the songs correlate. And that's kind of what I'm also going to explain today. So Kendall wakes up in this new place. He has no idea where he is. He starts questioning who he is. And he wonders, like, people are different, places are different, and am I different? Will I be the same person I remember? As that correlates to 19. All right, so that's 19. And to kind of go into that more, you see like the next post was an incoming image right here. So if I zoom in, hopefully this works on the live stream. Just check in, perfect. All right, so you see Kendall right here, white joggers, black pants, black coat, blue hoodie. And then you see 2 people next to him. We'll explain this in a second, but then the tower's looming over him. So this is in Savata Spicati with the 2 new characters. So in journal entry number 4, he says he meets 2 people named Cheston Rones and Claude Isidro. One of them also says that, hey, we need to get moving and find shelter. Dog is coming. He gives a little brief explanation about both of them, which I'll talk about in a second when we go through their character IDs. But essentially, these people invite a complete stranger to their home. And Kendall doesn't really question, or he kind of questions it, but considering the fact that he has nowhere to go, he doesn't know what's going on, he says yes. However, he collapses again, and then he wakes up in an apartment, which is the Traveler's home base, which I'll explain in a little bit. So the most important part of this, like, is meeting Claude and Cheston, and that's what happens in this picture right here. So, and if we talk about kind of the correlation, um, in the timeline of the Snow Globe songs, 19 was kind of where I started. I started life at Drake University, and I started meeting these new people that were like, "Oh yeah, like come hang out with us. Like we would love to have you with us." Um, so I got plugged into the campus ministry that I'm a part of, CF, and that kind of is what that journal entry represents. I met people who invited me into their culture, into the home, like they had known me for years. So that's the parallel there. So let's talk about the characters. You have Cheston, 17 years old, March 19th, 2023, last known sighting with Kinnell going towards the Traveler's Hangout. And Cheston is really smart. And most of the time, people refer to him as Rones. So if I say Rones, that's who I'm talking about. So he plans out everything, very smart, analytical, and thoughtful. Claude, on the other hand, is more of like the extroverted friend. Last known sighting with Kinnell going towards the Traveler's Hideout. So again, these character IDs were marked and posted right after journal entry number 4, where Kinnell goes with Claude and Cheston to that hideout. He's extroverted and happy to make friends, and has ambitious dreams he doesn't know about yet. So, talking about Claude in this specific instance, Claude had been having repeated dreams about meeting Kinnell. We'll talk about that in a little bit more because there's a specific example of what he was having a dream with about Kinnell. But essentially, Claude, with his habit, like he introverted, like, oh, like, let's make lots of friends. With that attitude, he saw Kinnell, a boy with a black coat and a blue hoodie, and was like, that's the guy in my dream that I've been seeing in my dreams. We need to go talk to this guy. So that's kind of why Claude and Cheston approach Kinnell, be like, hey, like, come with us. And the fun part is, I have this pulled up right now, which is a little bit of a blunder on my side. But if I pull this up on Spotify, you can see this interaction work out in real time in 19 Canvas. So I'm going to show that right there. Hopefully it works. Yeah. So you see Kinnell, who's like lost, and then you see Claude and Cheston walking up to him and like bringing him back. So that was like the one part of the one other part of the story that we actually got to film on camera. So the events of journal entry 3 and 4 are depicted in 19's Canvas. Just another example of how these two projects are correlated. All right. So then after this, journal entry number 5 was the last journal entry to come out before Snow Globe's drop. And this is in Morning in this ties together with Morning in the Fall. So a little bit about these entries. So 10/4/2021. When was the last one written? I think it was that's the same one. I think journal entry 3 was that's 9/1/2021. Okay, so it was like a month apart. But those kind of give you the timeline of when these songs actually happen in the narrative. So I guess even to bounce back a little bit more, journal entry number 1, 8/23/2021, and then same. I believe that should be the same thing for this one, 8/24/2021. So that was the night I like first came to Drake and first started college. So Kinnell, that was the night that Kinnell crossed the light bridge and I gained access to this world. Journal entry 3, 9/1, that was like a week after, and then 10/4/2021 this tells the story of heading out, or the part of the College Chronicles journey that correlates with heading out. So essentially, Kinnell gets a little lazy with how much he's been writing. But after waking up in Claude's apartment, he found out more about where he is. He learns that he's found himself in Savatas Picati, a metropolis run by the government Imperium Picati, or the Imperium as people just refer to it. And not a lot of people know what the Imperium does or what's happening in it, but people just kind of don't question the rules and accept the regulations for the city. So, as Kendall starts to learn about what his life is going to look like here, um, he just starts doing life with Cheston, Claude, and a group called the Travelers, who welcomed Kendall in. Um, they become a really tight knit group, and this is kind of like the main group of the story. And he gets plugged in with the University of Savatas Picati and starts doing daily tasks for them. He tries to figure out what's going on. In this specific example, he starts thinking about all the things that have gone crazy in his life: the bridge, the bus crash, meeting Claude and Cheston by what could not have been just chance. And then he starts to spiral faster, faster. Then the window curtain catches his eye. So he walks open, opens them, gets some natural light in his room, and he becomes a lot happier. And he thinks, even if this doesn't last right now, it's a good day. So again, this is another part of where the song "Morning in the Fall" and this journal entry connect. Um, so there's a lot of correlations, and that's kind of what I really want to get at today. Um, and he goes after this. He goes and gets his task done. Yeah, he was productive. Yada this, yada that. And I guess the one other thing about this one is because I dislike not having answers to why I'm here, what is really going on, and what I should do. Life seems to be on my side. I found my friends. I will continue to keep these questions in the back of my head, but today was a good day. The future is uncertain. Kendall. So 10/4/2021, if we go back to like the real world, this is when I was starting to really kind of find my routine with college. I was starting to meet friends, like the friends who influenced what the Travelers would become. And I was kind of finding rhythm in my life, even though I didn't have a lot of answers to what am I going to do with my life, yada this, yada that. So Kindle has a lot of those questions as well, just kind of regarding the bus crash, why he's in Savatas Picati, how he met Cheston and Rones, or Cheston and Claude. But he has met his friends, the Travelers, and he's like, you know what, we're just going to keep on going with it. So that's kind of the correlation between the two worlds that are happening. And then I guess I can show this to you as well. So this is the map of Savatas Picati. Let me just make sure it's good on the live stream. Okay, I know it's kind of tough to see, but you get a couple things here. You get Highcliffe State Park, which you have the Sunset Cliff and the bus stop. You have the light bridge with this path, this road that goes this way, a little path through the forest, the light bridge, and then this way to Savatas Picati. You can see this way it goes to the light bridge, so it's like a long road. And then this was like a fun project because I got to kind of like imagine, all right, this is the world. Let me bring some more elements into it. So you have I for I, and then a little I means or is kind of a reference to imaginary numbers. You have the PTA bus stop, the Imperium Capitol building, the University of Savatas Picati, the industrial district, the residential district with the Travelers home base, the gym, hotel, the Travelers sign, city park, Port Picati, a dead end question mark. And essentially, I kind of view this as like Apple Maps. If you zoom in, there's going to be a lot more and a lot more buildings, a lot more things. But as of right now, it's like, okay, this is like at a wide view, this is what you can see. And also just kind of keep a note if this looks familiar or not. If you look at the line out of the main roads, you can see something special. You can see EJ. So that's obviously the logo that I use for the music page. And if you watch the Snow Globe Diving Deeper episode, you'll know where this is going to go. But essentially, like I said, This is the map of Savatas Picati, and that's why like I talked a lot about the EJ logo in the Snow Globe music video or the Snow Globe Diving Deeper episode. And we'll talk more about the dead end and more of that as we go throughout the story. So let's continue on. Snow Globe Act 1 Somnium emerged successful January 13th. This is when Snow Globe released, and this is the first time you see Snow Globe in this context. But it is College Chronicles Act 1. So what you've been hearing so far is journal entries referencing heading out 19, excuse me, and morning in the fall. But Somnium inversion is a little interesting. In the timer, it said one immersion fully or on this day. But I wanted to change it because Somnium works a lot better, and I'll explain. Well, actually, you know what? I'll explain this right now because I feel like right now is a good point. I've given some time to think about, or I've given some examples of the repeated dreams phenomenon. So let's talk about that right now. So this was actually May 19th, one of the last posts for Act 1. But essentially, the repeated dreams phenomenon has a scientific explanation in this world. And how it works is if repeated dreams show up, they will turn out to be true. And examples are when Ethan dreamed about Ader in the Memories trilogy, when he dreamed about the light bridge when he was on the bus and as he was getting closer to it. And then you get other things like Kinnell dreaming about the events of the escape, Claude dreaming about the conversation with Kinnell while watching the sunset, which we'll get to in a bit. Some have theorized it to be messages and prophecies of the future. However, others theorize it that it has to deal with the realm known as Somnium. So, Somnium, if you translate that from Latin, means dream. So, Somnium is the realm in which the two worlds can interact. I've talked about this a little bit before, but like in this story, there's the real world that I've in that like I go through life, I meet my friends, yada this, yada that. And then there's Imaginatonus, where Kinnell's going through his adventures and such like that. Somnium is the realm where Ethan, where Ethan can contact Kinnell. So this is another byproduct of the light bridge and crossing it, is that Ethan can see what's going on in Kinnell's world, and specifically in terms of where the user is a writer, the writer can actually affect what's going on in this world. Somnium is the place the two can interact. The two can see each other. And though the windows of these meetings are normally short, similar to the length of the REM sleep stage, which is where we have all our dreams, the repeated dreams phenomenon suggests that there is a way that Somnium and the repeated dreams phenomenon are related. Scientists have speculated that the repeated dreams are a way that the user tries to tell the avatar what will happen, and encounters in Somnium are the direct interactions. Specifically, in terms of cases where a user is a writer, this case would prove probable because the writer could be telling the avatar what will happen because they already know it. More research needs to be done. The fog has an effect on Somnium. I'm going to explain that in the future stream. But it's fair to conclude that repeated dreams come true when in this world. I wonder what we will see next. Oneurologist S. Bagels, PhD. So essentially, the repeated dreams phenomena is like whenever a character in this world has a repeated dream, it's going to happen. Whenever we see the word somnium, that's the realm in which the two characters can interact. And we're going to get a little bit of an example of that soon. But when it's the somnium emergent successful, that essentially says when the album dropped, that's when you get more access to all of this. You get access to like these journal entries and such like that. A lot more. So that's kind of why I wanted to use the word somnium. And it is that realm where where Ethan can interact with Kinnell. And if you're wondering why I've been referring to myself in the third person for a lot of this stream, the reason of that is because I kind of consider myself right now the one who is giving you this live stream, I'm obviously not the same Ethan who you see in the music videos because I didn't on August 23rd, 2021, I didn't get in a bus and drive and like end up in a bus crash, but somehow I woke up fine. I didn't take a bus to college. Um, and I didn't go through the exact things of music or of the memorology. I didn't meet a person who looked exactly like me who wears a red plaid hoodie. So what I consider is like I am a writer who plays two different characters in this world specifically. I play Ethan, who is me, a writer, and like he wrote Snow Globe, he wrote College Chronicles, he wrote A Splash of Colors, Memories, Press Pause, but he goes through a couple different things. But then I also play the character Kennel. So if you hear me like say my name in the third person, know that I'm referencing the character that I play versus just the real me right now. Because this is fiction. So just kind of want to clear that out. If it doesn't make sense, too bad. Journal entry 6. Yet another day has passed. So the first journal entry that you get post Snow Globe dropping is the whiteboard calendar one. And this is almost a full year after the events of the morning and the fall entry. This references whiteboard calendar as that one's essentially like a time jump as you go from January or December. No, as you go from January to December in a year. So I want to represent that as well. A full sun cycle since I ran into Claude and Justin and that weird encounter with the bus and the bridge. Hydration. Whew. So Kindle has been chronicling his life with a whiteboard calendar as the Imperium requires. And he becomes fond of this. He's able to look back at what he does, remembering the hangouts and the daily tasks and performing a show for our friends. That references V-Day 2023, where I got to create a show for my friends. That was really cool. He's enjoyed his time. Essentially, Kendall starts to find contentment in his life. And he also has gotten to meet a lot more people of the Travelers. Alexander Coe, otherwise referred to as Lyco, Lexus Cress, Ambrose, Luna Reed, Valerie Reed, Cassian Hayward, and Jackson Craig. So that is kind of like the core of the group of Travelers. Like that's like his friend group, that's the Travelers, and these are the people that we're going to continue to talk about throughout this story. And he still doesn't really have any answers to the questions yet, but he's started to pay no attention to it. He's found contentment in Stavatis Pecati and doing the daily tasks at the university, even though there are things that he doesn't understand. Feels like someone has been watching him. Interesting. But he's found a rhythm and he's getting comfortable. But I'll keep on walking forward. Referencing the line in Whiteboard Calendar, but I'll keep on walking forward till the end of this month. So what's next? Journal entry number 7. If you go down the album list, this would reference My Bed, and you. Oh, that's actually not true. My Bed is entry number 8 because there are a couple entries that don't correspond to songs on Snow Globe, just because I wanted to write more. So essentially, in this, Kindle is hanging out with the Travelers, lounging in the room. Jackson Craig is witty. The Reed sisters find those jokes hilarious. Everybody's laughing for something. Kindle essentially suggests, hey, I want to take a vacation with you guys. I want to leave the city. I want to go to the Suncliff because I think that would be so much fun. And the people of the Travelers get so confused and perplexed, except for Aleko and Lexus. It's like they had never even heard of like that there's a world outside of the city. So Kendall tries to explain it. They're stunned by the idea, and he can kind of see out of the corner of his eye as he's explaining it that Lexus is getting really upset. And Aleko says, "Hey, let's drop it. Let's all leave." So that kind of resurfaces the questions that he's been having and been like, "All right, why do people not know that there is a world outside the city? Why is the idea of leaving this city absurd? Like, what's going on? So that happens after kind of the time skip. But entry 8 does talk about my bed. You can even see it here. It's like the weight of the world is off of my shoulders, directly referencing that line in my bed. So a beautiful sunset falls on the horizon of the skyline. The sky is painted orange with streaks of gold and tones of red. The fall breeze makes wearing a sweatshirt comfortable. It's a beautiful night. So something that the travelers do a lot is watch the sunset. And that's kind of why Kendall had the idea of, oh, let's go to the sunset, or let's go watch the sunset at High Cliff, this place that I love. And he also talks about the nostalgia that he has about it. But then he has a heart-to-heart with Claude. Now, if you remember what the repeated dreams phenomena post said, one of the examples of the repeated dreams was Claude. And he had repeated dreams about this specific encounter. Here, Kendall says that Claude has essentially been his best friend for him, and he's really gone close to him. But Claude gets a little interested about the topic of world outside the city because he's like, essentially from birth, the city was all that the inhabitants know, and any mention of the outside is quickly shut down. But Claude was curious and wanted to learn what it was like. So you get this little encounter where it's like Claude is wondering like what's like the outside world. And hello, that's my dad. You're all good. Don't worry about it. So yeah, you get Claude and Kendall having this conversation of like, this is kind of like the world. Sometimes it's dark and scary when thunderstorms come around, but depending on your perspective, it can be amazing as well. Sunsets and sunrises come and are beautiful. And that is kind of a callback to both my song Sunrise and Sunset. And specifically in Sunset, in the pre-chorus where it's like, do you remember when the day was so cloudy? The rain poured down, but it stopped eventually in that dusk. I think that's the line. The sky and trees, their colors taught me that the sky can take my storm clouds and turn them into beauty. So that's kind of a little callback to Sunset. But Claude is like, I can't believe I've never heard about this. So Claude wants to see the outside world despite the timer, whatever the city says. He wants to see the beauty of the sunset on the cliff. So Kendall makes this promise with Claude that the travelers will take a vacation going towards High Cliff. So that's really important. Claude had been having repeated dreams about that, and then eventually it happens. So now we hit journal entry number 9, which is an encounter insomnia. So, cool thing about this one is that pretty much ever since now, the story has been kind of relatively contained in the separate worlds. But this is the first journal entry where you see an encounter insomnia. And you can actually see it live happen in the Diving Deeper episode of this song. But to go through it quickly, it's 3 a.m. Something weird just really happened. He has a dream, or Kendall has a dream where he sees Ethan. He sees Cheston walk out of a room, but he doesn't recognize him at all. So like he walks through this hallway. He sees what he thinks is Cheston walk out of the hallway, but Cheston doesn't recognize him at all. As he walks in that room, he sees myself, except it wasn't me. He was wearing a red plaid hoodie and said that he was the writer waiting for me to show up. So this is the events that happen in Diving Deeper chapter, whatever it is, the encounter insomnium, where I talk about interlude 2. Where Ethan, the character, and Kendall meet in the realm of somnium. So Kendall is super confused, but Ethan says that there's a reason that nobody in the city knows about the outside world. The Imperium, the government, essentially like snaps down at any mention of it. Um, and if you want more explanation about that, go watch that video. But anybody born in the city is never allowed to leave. In addition, there was a failed city escape roughly a year ago when the Imperium shut off all known escape routes. However, he told me this: follow the J to escape. Nyack does not know about that route. There are no other alternatives, and you need to get out of the city before your timer runs out to live. So, if we jump back to the general information and the timer post, there's been this timer that's been ticking. And in the 19 journal entry, Kinnell can see this timer slowly ticking down. Um, so, uh, essentially, what Ethan tells Kinnell is like, you have to get out of the city before your time runs out in order to live. This gets explained in the next thing, but like, Ethan also tells Kinnell that he has to write down everything that has happened in Somnium, which is the realm that we've been talking about and the realm of dreams that Ethan is allowed to talk to Kinnell in. But despite everything, Ethan is in control of the story. That's because Ethan is the writer, and whether he knows it or not, he's like shaping this world. As the writer of this story, I'm shaping it. I'm affecting it, and I know how it's going to end. I know what's going to happen, so that no matter what happens in between Kinnell and Nyack, I know what's going to happen, and I have control. So that kind of is what Ethan means when he says that. But then, oh crap, I just got a nosebleed, and I'll be back. How convenient. So the next one, chapter 10, is the truth of the Imperium. So in this, Kinnell meets Nyack. Nyack is the leader of the Imperium, and he's like the guy. So Kinnell's freaking out after. So kind of like the timeline of this, you have the encounter in Somnium. Kinnell writes about it. He runs to the bathroom. He tries to plug his nose. You have your encounter with Nyack, and then Kinnell writes this. I'm going to grab a quick sip of water because I'm talking a lot. Oh man, I love hydration. So kind of why I see this is the climax, or a huge turn point in this story because things are revealed. So Kinnell goes to stop the nosebleed. He hears a voice eerily saying his name. Everything goes black. He's not knocked out, but he can see Nyack right in front of him. And kind of the rumor on the street is that anybody who sees him tells horror stories. And Kinnell can understand why. Like, Nyack's in and of himself is distorted, haunting, and like Ethan's like Ethan. Kinnell is paralyzed by fear when seeing Nyack. That's how scary this guy is, and just how commanding of a presence he has. So he walks up, and Nyack is like, "Why would you ever want to leave?" And his words seem genuine and heartfelt, but were screaming terror into Kinnell's system. This is important because kind of this gets explained a lot more in J5, but like in this world, Nyack is the leader of a government called the Imperium of Sin. The Imperium. In a city called Civitas Peccati, the city of sin. So in my mind, Nyack is like temptation, is like the incarnate character that represents the temptation that I go through, the temptation that I have to fight. So I kind of pulled the 21 Pilots in their story. Like Tyler created Nico, who is kind of, Nico and the Niners, who represent his insecurities and his fears. And I think there was a time where he says, like, when you can give a name and a face to the things that you're trying to fight, it helps you go through it better. So I wanted to do the same. I created Nyack, I don't think I've ever said this out loud. Otrold. If you rearrange those things, that's like of the world. But I wanted to give a name and a face to to like the temptation of that fight. So that's Nyack, in who is the leader of this city of sin, and the Imperium of sin. So that's a little background on Nyack. So Nyack essentially tells like Kindle, you've learned too much from Ethan. But then, I loved writing this. You have to admit that the whole bus crash was cleverly orchestrated, wouldn't you? Knowing about how the construction rerouted your planning the crash and using a siren to lead you straight into the city, into my grasps. Yet another feat of my genius. And for the past year, you've served me well, completing daily tasks of doing research for the University of Sabatis Bacati and furthering our research and our control, and you didn't even question it, just like everybody else. So Nyack was the one who planned the bus crash. If you look back to the bus log where Steve Bagel says, like, I don't know, like we have to take this detour. It shouldn't have to be there, but apparently there's construction and it wasn't there yesterday. The reality of it was there wasn't construction on 380 and I-80. Nyack purposely like hacked the system or something to reroute the bus so that he could orchestrate the bus crash, lead Kindle into the city, and have him in his grasp. And there's a specific reason why Nyack wants Kindle under his grasp, and a specific reason why Nyack knows who Ethan is. And I'll explain that in a little while. But essentially, he's really pissed that Kindle told the travelers about the outside world. It's really hard to control a city and keep people trapped in the city limits when there's talk of an outside of what is outside. You know, you should ask good old Alexander Coe what happened the last time they tried to escape. Dmitri Kress was such a nice soul. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but essentially something happened with Nyack, Aleko, and Dmitri Kress. And then he essentially like goes crazy, says, "Will not escape. Even if you happen to escape and loosen my grasp over your timer, the known escape routes are destroyed. I don't care what Ethan told you, I am in control." So he's like, Nyack is also a control maniac. He wants to hold on to control as much as he can. And when your timer goes off in the city limits, you will die, and the Imperium will, and myself will become stronger. Good luck trying to escape. I'll be ready for you, Kindle. So this is a huge revelation and explains why the timer and the city are messed up. Essentially, in the city, if the Imperium or everybody who's in the city has access to like their own timers, they're all different. It's like the time that we have for a life. It's like if you could see how long you live, it's essentially that. What the Imperium does is they shorten that timer. And if that timer goes off in the city, I don't think I've ever explained this in a post before, but like the citizens' light or bodies like turn into a like beam of blue light that shoot off towards the Imperium Capitol building, and that gives that gives the city both energy and makes the Imperium stronger. It's just another like thing that happens in this world. So the reason why Ian was telling Kindle like you need to escape is because if Kindle doesn't, if the travelers don't, they're just gonna be like everybody else of the city who, when they die, their lives just end up feeding the Imperium of sin and feeding Nyack. So this is why this is so important. This is why Nyack wants to control everything so carefully, and this is why Kindle needs to escape. So right after he says that, he gets almost like teleported back to reality. John and Cheston are with Kindle, and like Kindle runs back to his room, plugs his nose, and ends up like he goes. But Kindle knows about the truth of the city and the Imperium. He knows why the city because Nyack brought him there. He knows why the bus crashed because Nyack orchestrated it. He knows what happens when the timer hits 0 within the city limits. He knows that his timer is being controlled and shortened by the Imperium. I still don't know why I met myself in Somnium. That's because Ethan's the writer, Candle's the avatar. They met. Um, the bridge, kind of like what we talked about earlier with the repeated dreams phenomena and Somnium, like that's what that has to do with this. Like Ethan crossed the bridge, created Kindle in Imaginatonus, and that's like kind of how this works in. But Nyack can't control that. Maybe there's more that he can't control. So Nyack, like I said, he tries to fight so much for control, but does he really have it? Find out later. So Kendall also says like he knows that person Insomnia. Maybe that was Ethan that Nyack was talking about. Looking back on it, Ethan never says to Nyack, "Oh, my name is Ethan." So he kind of learns that from Nyack. But he remembers how Ethan told him about the J, how there's no other alternative. Well, if the failed escape happened a year ago and all the known escape routes are now shut off, this makes sense. But he says, though fear and panic are surging through me, I know what I need to do. The travelers need to follow the J and escape the city. This will end eventually. And then I can go back to sleep. So this references kind of the revelation I had when I talk about the song Nosebleed. My revelation sin and my revelation that I needed to escape the chains that were tying me down. And kind of fun thing ties into that. You rearrange the name Nyack, you get the word chain. You rearrange the name Ader, you get ready. You rearrange the words of the name Kinnel, you get link. So Kinnel is Ethan's link to Imaginatonus, my link to Imaginatonus. Nyack represents the chains that keep me down in the city of sin, and Ader represents the lessons of being ready to move on, but this isn't about him. So, huge revelation. In the real world, I became aware of my sin. In this world, Kendall gets aware of why he's in the city, what happens when the timer reaches zero, and why he needs to escape. So those are the parallels. And then we get an informational post about the University of Vatus Peccati, for the Forest of Vatus Peccati, for the Imperium, for Unity. Essentially, it makes this whole world the Imperium wants to have complete control over the city. So it's super advanced and technological, maximize efficiency and productivity while keeping students in the flow state with minimal distraction / time to be distracted, and fitted with the highest psychological technology for productivity, research, and experimentation. The primary task of students is to gather data from different disciplines for further development of the university and Imperium. This is conducted through daily tasks. So essentially, all the things that Kendall has been doing for the past month has been through the university, and what it does, it is feeding the university and Imperium's control and grasp over the city and control. And essentially, they research behavioral patterns, assessing truths, and the transformation for the unity of the people are highly respected and kept in safe databases in the Imperium. And it's improved by the highly respected and all-powerful Imperium. Disrespect or disobedience will not be tolerated and is punished by solitary containment. So the Imperium and the university, like, they were hand in hand. Like, this is propaganda, man. And it was fun to make this. But then you get this error message of, oh, like, what's going on? Don't trust their lies. It's all an attempt to control you, the people of the city, and our precious time. They try to keep you focused on completing their research without questioning the morals, ethics, values, or humanity behind why. The Imperium only gains more control over the city with more research done. They will only shorten your timer in solitary containment. Be aware there is a way out. More to come soon. Watch for the neon lights in the sky. They don't know who I am, but you do. So this was written by Kinnell, and this is journal entry number 17, written on 1/11/2024. So January 11th, 2024. So a huge time jump from right here, which is October 2nd, 2020. So now you know a little bit more about the university, this world, how the Imperium works, and now we're gonna kind of. I'm doing okay on time. We're gonna kind of go through the rest of this. Um, so journal entry number 11 works with Olmsted Cafe. This Kendall wakes up, goes to the cafe to try to work on the daily tasks that he now knows the truth about. He's getting really stressed uh, as like he knows what they are. But somebody shows up and kind of helps him, who is Amber Lyons. Um, she asks if she could sit next to him, get some of her work done. Kendall agrees, and they talk about it. Like Amber's role in the story is to be like, I'll explain a little bit more of it in I think it's a couple journal entries, but she is so easy to talk to in this story. So Kendall opens up to her and tells her about the the dream that he had. This happens the next day after. Yeah, this happens October 3rd, 2022. So he opens up. He tells Amber about the dream and kind of the hecticness that he went through. Um, but she says this: "How about this? I'll order a hot chocolate for me and whatever for you, and we'll get our work done today. Does that sound good?" Again, that is the line from Olmsted Cafe. I'll order one hot chocolate for me and whatever for you, and we'll get our work done today in Olmsted Cafe. So that is the parallel to the real song as well. Um, Kendall ends up telling Amber about the dream between Nyack and Ethan. Um, she's shocked about the truth of the Imperium, but she listens, and that's kind of her role in this story. Um, and the conversation veered off to tangents. They laughed, and this really helps Kendall kind of process what had happened. Um, but they conclude that they tell the rest of the travelers and formulate a plan to escape, and that's going to happen tomorrow. And they got their work done. Journal entry 12: a revelation, realization, and revolution. So this doesn't correspond to any of the songs off of Snow Globe, but this is like Kendall's confession to the travelers, where he tells them everything that's happened, um, who he is, even though he doesn't really know that answer yet, um, how he arrived in the city, especially knowing who caused it, and what he knows about Somnium. Um, he tells them about Ethan, um, and his encounter with Nyack, what his plans are, and how the Imperium is shortening the time that they deserve. And so initially, this is met with a lot of like setback. Like the people who have grown up in the city are almost like brainwashed by the university to say like, "Oh, the research that we do is good." They don't want to believe that their whole lives have been a lie, so they push back. But there's one person who helps Kendall convince them all, which is Alexander Coe. If you remember when Nyack met Kendall, he talked about how Aleko and Dmitri Kress had an encounter with Nyack when they tried to escape. So this is what Aleko now tells the travelers. Essentially, what he says is the original travelers were only him and Dmitri Kress, who is Lex's older brother and Cassian's old mentor. And um, Aleko and Dmitri were the best of friends. They were adventurous. They worked really well together. And they had secretly learned the terrors and secrets of the Imperium on their own. Dmitri had a closer role with the Imperium with his assignments and daily tasks. And through his time studying, he slowly realized that something was wrong. So he researched it a little bit, keeping it like on a profile in the databases written. And he found files and written by Nyack about how Nyack learned to control the timers of the inhabitants within the city. So that's kind of Nyack's power in this world. So, paired with Aleko being ambitious and Dmitri having this knowledge, the first travelers planned an escape. And everything was going great until it did. They were inches from escaping. They could see the interstate where they were planning to hitch a ride on a bus, but not was there waiting for them by some miscalculation or perhaps a mere coincidence. Nyack was at the same time, and really, unfortunately, like Nyack gets so disappointed, but activates something, and Dimitri's timer gets shortened to zero, and his body disappears in a flash of blue light towards the Imperium Capitol building, and Nyack, along with the Imperium, became stronger. And this was all on August 23rd, 2021. So why was Nyack at the bus stop that night? Is because that is the same day that Kinnell arrived in the city, and Nyack was waiting there because he was the one who took Kinnell from that plane that you can see in the end of the heading out video into the city. So it was just terrible coincidence and miscalculation that the first escape attempt of the travelers happened the day Kinnell arrived in Civitas Picati. By some miracle, Nyack became distracted by an urgent call about some crash being a success, and that so Nyack has to turn his attention towards following Kinnell and going to get him, retrieve him, and throw him in the city. So Aleko has a chance to escape, and he also seals off all known escape routes and ways out of the city. The plan was a bust, and Dimitri was killed. So after hearing this, the group and the travelers become horrified at the Imperium because now with two eyewitness accounts, they know that they trust each other, and they know now that's okay, the work that we've done became loathsome, and it was a revelation and a realization. So Aleko asks hey, is there another escape option? And when Kinnell tells him about the J, it's oh, duh. Because it's a main road that leads to a tunnel system and is guarding Imperium soldiers. And why would soldiers be there if it's an escape route? So it's essentially after that, the travelers agree that they need to get out. They cannot be trapped here. So Claude said he wants to go on a vacation. Chesson says that he could come up with a plan. Lexus seemed like he had seen a ghost and agreed to go all in, but seemed to be lost in his thoughts. Remember this, that's important, that Lexus seems to have doubts. The rest of the crew agreed, and Aleko says that he had been waiting for an opportunity, shook Kinnell's hand, and was we need to do this. So this is when the start of the escape plan starts. Nobody can say a word or the operation will be flawed. They need to craft the perfect escape. The travelers will create a plan in secret over the coming months while acting like nothing ever happened to kind of keep suspicion off of us. And planning will start next week. We will escape Nyack. And so this is the revelation, a realization, and the revolution that the travelers come to, saying we need to get out of this city. Next, Journal 13, something/someone new. So this again hits back to a song off of Snow Globe, which is Seashells Part 3. And this is essentially Kinnell saying the things that I say in Seashells Part 2 about Amber. So Kinnell's all right, a lot of things are changing. We're working on this plan, but somebody is kind of catching my eye. He doesn't have a ton of experience in it before. He can vaguely remember times a life ago before the bust, the city, and the cliff, representing the things that I went through. So much love, but so much failure. That again kind of hits back at the verses of Seashells Part 2. And he knows it's kind of an irrational thing, but for some reason, me and Amber and talking with her feels different. She's easy to talk to. She's funny. Her eyes are so beautiful, and Kinnell has gotten to know her as they've grown here in the city. That's a line from Seashells Part 2. She was with Kinnell as after the morning wherein he encountered Nyack, and kind of over the time of when like the Olmsted Cafe events happen throughout the rest of the story. Like they start hanging out a lot of time together in the Olm Cafe at the base. Um, and Kendall starts to like be like a little bit of a romantic about it. He thinks about like I'm thinking about tomorrow and the following days, but I can't help myself from thinking about her, how she's doing, and she somehow finds a way to keep ways to keep her on his mind. It's almost like a good distraction. But who knows? It could just be another failure, yada yada. Um, but a small part of me wonders if she's glad that I'm in her life. I guess time will tell. So this is just kind of like again, like these are journal entries written by Kindle. They're not like that was kind of the interest of writing this because it was like I'm telling the story through journal entries. So it can't all just be like this lore heavy, like this is what happened to Leiko and the travelers, yada this, yada that. Like you also have to have like the personal moments because journal is supposed to be that way. So you have things like this where Kendall's like, man, like there's this girl that I kind of like, and she's been really helpful for me, and I really like talking to her and spending time with her. I don't know what my life is going to look like in a couple of weeks, but I like spending time with her. And it was just kind of that emotional honesty that this really kind of hits at. And again, that also relates to Seashells Part 2, the things that I talk about in that song. After this, thinking of the citizens. This is a cool one. Kindle gets closer and closer to the day where they escape. If you know here, wait, that's 2020. Is that a typo? That is most certainly supposed to be 2022. Whoopsie. Okay, so that's on me. 11/3/2022. Essentially, as Kindle's walking past these, like the city streets and such like that, he notices the citizens that don't know about the Imperium. Uh, and he realizes that there are so many people in the city who are blind to the truth and the nature of the city. So he kind of has like he kind of feels guilty because he's like I've been so focused on getting the travelers out that I've like are we forgetting about the rest of the thousands of people in the city? So he goes to Aleko, who has been a mentor for him a lot, and he goes to help. Aleko helps him, but he says like, "Hey, we need to focus on getting ourselves out first because if we don't get out, we can't help others." But they agreed that they need to do something about the citizens. So they're going to adjust parts of the plan and make the escape a spectacle while keeping themselves safe and secure. Um, and what they plan to do is make the escape something that's going to tell the travel or the people of the city, like, hey, like, don't trust the Imperium. And if this plan works, we'll come back and help others escape once our timer is broken free of the Imperium's control. If this works, the travelers will become a group. Man, sorry. That help the citizens of Savatas Bacati find salvation from the Imperium. So kind of how I think about this is like this happened to me when I was in Spain. Like I was just walking around and I was like the Christian in me saw like people who didn't know Christ. And I was like, man, like something needs to they need to know. Um, and that's kind of what this reference is. Like the travelers give will eventually like be a group that helps people find salvation from the Imperium, just like how like my campus ministry helped me find salvation from my sin, and how God helped me find salvation from my sin. Um, so that's kind of where those parallels come from as well. Dreams that reveal. For now, we're getting closer and closer to the day of the escape. So now this is January 13th, 2023. What? Oh, okay. I know. I wrote this story. I should know this better. Yeah, January 23 or January 13th, 2023, a year before Snow Globe actually releases. And what he says, Kendall says in this journal, is that he's been having dreams of um, dreams of the escape plan that are very similar to the dreams of the light bridge, the red flannel, the repeated dreams phenomena. And what he says is like Kindle is having dreams about different paths that he's going to take. Like, what if this happens? What if that happens during it? Some end with seeing Nyack. But he's learning from them. He's seeing each path and he takes like a different one in each dream. But every time something happens, like something changes. But the thing that is repeated the most is Nyack shows up. And Kendall is right about to fulfill his role in the plan, but Nyack is getting louder and louder. Aleko shows up. He's like, hey, give me your jacket. I'm going to give you yours. Or I'll give you my jacket. Give me yours. He says a couple things that like Kendall can't remember. And then Aleko like sacrifices himself, pushes Kendall away to distract Nyack as Kendall can finish his part of the plan and they escape. However, without Aleko. And then after he's out of the city, he looks back at the city, seeing what they had done, and wakes up. So he talks to Amberclaw and Rowan's about this. He doesn't want to talk about Aleko because he doesn't want to jeopardize it. But this is kind of the start where where Kendall's like, is this repeated dreams phenomena a thing? With how both the flannel and Lightbridge dreams came true, I'm inclined to believe that this one will too. Maybe my other self, Ethan, might be showing me these since he was in control / the writer / the author. I don't know. But either way, we have to press on. We have to escape. I just hope we can do it right and that we can all achieve salvation from this neon city. So this journal entry is all about, again, setting up the idea of the repeated dreams phenomena. And as like giving Kendall like, hey, like something might really happen here with it when the escape happens. Journal entry 18. So now we get another song that's tied to a journal entry. This is Two of Spades. Essentially, this is the plan for the escape. Rose, Jackson, and Cassian and Claude prepared this, and the breakdown is essentially with the escape, there's a 2-minute window where there aren't any soldiers in a half-mile radius. Luna got that. If there's a situation involving an escape, all Imperium soldiers are required to step in and secure the surrounding place first. And Kendall goes into a lot of other things about it. But essentially what they're going to do is there's going to be, on the night of January 12th, 2024, an important figurehead will be arriving Port Picati because Nyack wants to expand the city. The travelers are going to use that event to do their escape. They're going to kind of set up so that like they're like, all right, we're escaping at an unknown spot in the northeast side, but in reality, they're following the J. And if you remember back to the map, that J had a dead end sign. The reality of it is that leads to an underground tunnel system that leads to the outside of the city. So that's why it's so important. So, yeah. That's what I kind of said. And what they're going to do is there's a bunch of computers that they're going to set up around the city that are activated by thumbprint. When they do that, they override the security systems in the tunnels so that they can open the last door that will lead them out. And then also, they can take control of the satellite projector that's on the top of the Imperium building to display these lights. We will illuminate the sky with the squares of the light bridge to tell people of the city that there is an escape. So essentially, their plan is to enter the tunnels at the same point, go around in it, activate the thumbprint or like use their thumbprints to activate their computers to override control of the Imperium's Capitol building so that they can escape and also display lights over the city. And other good thing to know is that they travel in groups of 2. And once they're out, they'll make their way to Urbs Refugi, which translated to Latin means city of refuge. And then he also just says, like, man, it's crazy to think that we're actually this close to escaping. But it's time to finally do this. uh, where's the line? We can't change the cards that we're dealt with, but we can change how we play them. Again, this is the song that ties, or this is the journal entry that ties to Two of Spades. And again, you can see the thing that I love about this story is like as you go through the journal entries, you can see when specific things happen in Snow Globe. It's like you're getting more context for the story that's happening in Snow Globe and like all the things that are going on. So I love it. Um, so Kindle says we can't change the tight security. We can't expect how Nag probably expects us to play a jack of trades, but we can change how we play our cards. And we're gonna play the Two of Spades, a card that normally wouldn't work, but in this game it will. The play is in our hands now. Good luck stopping us. Now we wait in silence. So also part of this is like they need to sit for a year to wait for this because this was posted on not a year. So the last journal entry that we see, journal 15, was January 13th, 2023. This one is November 3rd, 2023. So a lot of time has gone into perfecting this plan. And for those who remember, November 3rd, 2023 was the original date that Snow Globe was supposed to drop. But instead, we had to push it back because I was waiting on one really crucial important thing. So to justify that in the war, we were like, I thought like, okay, this will be the time where they have the plan done, but now they have to wait before they can actually execute it because that's kind of what I had to do. Journal entry 18, dawn of the day of the escape. This kind of goes through some of Kennel's thoughts, how much he's changed, how he's found his people, but he's also nervous. He's like, man, like there are so many things riding on this. But he says this quote, which he says again, tonight we stand here with a chance to break free from all this place has done to us. Sometimes it hasn't seemed possible, but tonight is proof there will always be an escape. And tonight we're taking it. No looking back, no second chances. This is it. Finally, an opportunity. So though the world may drag us back for now. Where do you hear that? You hear that in the Snow Globe song. So when you hear that message, that is Kinnell directly saying it. And that is one of the best examples of the lore pouring into the actual album. The other main example of that is the line follow the J to escape, because in reality, nobody knows what the J is. And it's probably this really vague thing. But to this, it's like the J is the part in which the dead end happens where they can enter tunnels and they can find salvation. And he says, Claude comes up. He's like, hey, it's time to go. We are not trapped in a snow globe. We are not running out of time tonight. And maybe the things we do make us want to stay within its sight, but we are not trapped in a snow globe because things have really changed. And tonight we'll unfold our plans to follow the J and escape. So this is the whole escape is tied to Snow Globe. This is like the beginning of it where he's like, all right, time to go. Audio files from the tunnels. This was a cool one. Essentially, this was a way for me to be like, all right, Kinnell's like recording things on his phone as he's going through the tunnels. So you get things like, all right, here we go. We got 3 minutes till the Imperium gets the calling card, and we'll be able to go. And then he says again, tonight we stand here with a chance to break free, blah, 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 blah. So though the world may drag us back, for now, static. So that is the specific point in which the message is pulled from and put in Snow Globe. And then he says, let's put on this escape spectacular. That is what Claude likes to call it. So we get a couple of updates. We're in the tunnels. Everything is going to plan everything is going to plan so far, but then Lexus disappears. So remember Lexus back. So let's talk about Lexus a little bit. He's Dimitri's younger brother. So he knew all about the escape plan and such like that before it happened. And the way Alexis sees it is like the reason Dimitri died is because of Kill, because of like our main character. So Lexus is kind of like has this resentment towards him, and that leads him to do something so that he disappears. I'm not going to reveal what that is yet because that'll get revealed in the next project. But essentially, Lexus and Kinnell are the pair that's working together, and Lexus is just gone. So this is bad because number one, Kinnell cares about Lexus, and he's like, I want to make sure he's okay. But you also need two thumbprints to activate the computer. With only 30 minutes left, it's tight. But then Aleko and Jackson are like, all right, we're on our way. We'll help you out. But then Nyack shows up. So this is just like his dream, another example of the repeated dreams phenomena, where Kinnell has had dreams about this exact encounter, and it happens. So Nyack shows up, Kinnell hides, but then Aleko sacrifices himself so that the travelers can escape. Aleko shows up, they trade jackets so that he can get out. And he says to Kinnell, like, if it gets past midnight, I'm probably gone. Like, leave without me. And Claude or Aleko kind of got this. He learned about the dream from Claude, but he had accepted it. He said that he has a score to settle with Nyack. He has a friend to see again, Dimitri, and that the travelers would continue legacy. And he says, Kinnell, you're the leader of the travelers now. I have complete trust and faith that you will lead them well. The timer is ticking so quickly, it's frightening. How will you use your time? Now go. That line is so important. Please remember it when we get to EJ5. But Aleko sacrifices himself. Kinnell meets up with Jackson. They activate the final computer. They get to the door, and they run out. And then Journal 20, the final one, a dark night with the brightest neon blue stars. We have followed the path, the J, and here I am. Now I'm looking back. I don't know how far this journey will go, but now we have escaped. A new adventure awaits. That is a direct callback. Let it load to journal entry number 1. The first line, a dark night with the brightest neon blue stars. The bus goes around a pre-written path, and yet here I am, just riding along. I don't know how far I'll go, but I'm on my way to a new life, a new adventure after the end. So that like kind of calls a reference to that again and says like, hey, like it sets up the end and the beginning and ties it together, which there are a lot of things that do that in the album of Snow Globe. So the travelers escape, but once they were out of the city, they see this blue light go towards the Imperium building, and that's kind of when they know that Nyack had gotten to Aleko. Kinnell's obviously devastated by this because Aleko was his mentor and kind of a co-leader, but they agree that they need to move on to honor his legacy. Kinnell has taken off his jacket, but it's going to put on soon. But while I was looking back at the city, I saw what we had done. The neon squares of light that were circling the city, just as we had planned. Our message to the citizen has been communicated. The snow on the trees, the almost magenta sky on the neon, illuminated by the neon lights of the city, my footprints in the snow, and all the lights above the city. We've done it. We followed the J and escaped. Savatas Picati. So 2 things with that. Number 1, this whole escape sequence in Imaginatonus references to kind of my escape of sin, or I guess kind of like my initial salvation and realization that I need to escape sin. So this is kind of how I wanted to depict it, with a character who has escaped this city and who's going to keep on fighting. They kind of know that the Imperium is going to go on and try to catch us. I think he says that. Yeah, I have no doubt that the Imperium will try to catch us, but we will wait to the city of refuge. So it's like Snow Globe. I say like, we're not trapped in a snow globe. We're not running out of time tonight. Like that's like me saying like, I'm not trapped by the chains that tie me down. Kinnell says, I'm not trapped in this city that ties me down. But specifically with this paragraph, I want to bring up something. I want to see. I guess this is going to be a good thing to know if this is on images or not. Okay, well, look at that. It is. So essentially, what Kendall describes in that paragraph is this scene right here. He has like his shirt on with his hoodie. He sees the lights that are circling the city, which like was part of the plan. The magenta sky that the neon lights create, the snow on the trees, his footprints. This is the scene that this describes. So when you look at the album art now, you'll be able to know like this was taken, like if this snapshot was taken right after Kinnell and the travelers have escaped the city. And that was really cool to make context behind that. Um, so yeah, and then the travelers are like, we will pass the city limits, break free from the timers that the Imperiums impose on us, and we will be truly free. We are not, or we are the travelers, and there is always an escape. We are not trapped in the snow globe. And then you get the final lines from the song Snow Globe. So no more looking back, no more setbacks. The past is in the past. We're going to leave it at that. It's time to escape, and we can say without a doubt that the time is now. So I'm heading out, Kennel. And that's where the story of College Chronicles Act 1 ends. It ends with the travelers being outside the Neon City, going towards Herb's refugi, the city of refuge, on their way to salvation. They've or on their way to salvation. And then you get like these last two posts were like the repeated dreams that we talked about earlier, with the dreams about Ethan with Ader, the light bridge, Kendall dreaming about the events of the escape, Claude dreaming about his conversation, and we kind of talked about this already. Also, I didn't mention this before, but onorologist S. Baggles, PhD. Steve Baggles may have a couple different careers, and the way I kind of view him is he's kind of like an anomaly of a character. So think of it as you wish. And then CC Act 1, lore finale. And with that, after I close this live stream, I'm going to pull this up really quick, but this is the official end of College Chronicles Act 1. It's going to take a while because I'm live streaming it. But essentially, I'll post this, but you can see it right here, Snow Globe College Chronicles Act 1 status. It says status complete in this. And I'm going to post that on both the College Chronicles journal page and the Ethan Jermain page right after this. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. But that is College Chronicles Act 1. Obviously, there's this huge story that happens in tangent with the songs. And my whole goal today was to show people like, hey, like there's a story that's here. My whole methodology behind music has been like, the first and primary thing is to create the songs I like to, or the songs I want to make, and songs that you should be able to listen to and able to enjoy. But if you want to dive deeper, there should be so much more that you can find. And that was my ultimate goal with this. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I'm getting the chance to creatively create a world that mimics the life that I've gone through, just in different settings, was a way that helped me fight my battles and come to terms with what I was going through. When I got my revelation, when I realized that I was numb to sin in the nose, or which was represented in Nosebleed, I got to represent that in the College Chronicles story as Kendall getting like aware to like what's going on in the city. And then Snow Globe being like, all right, I need to start fighting my sin. I need to start escaping it, was when Kinnell and the Travelers escaped. Um, and it was definitely something that I've never done before, getting to create a world with certain scientific things and explanations for repeated dreams, um, and like different powers that work in a world. It was fun to create and fun to make. Um, and can completely say that it's confusing. Um, and I'm sure there's people who have no idea what it means. There's people who won't understand it. That was kind of the reason I wanted to do this, to just kind of be like, hey, here's the story. Here are the connections between the songs. Let me talk about this. Because, I mean, as you saw, like, I think I'm going to check this. I don't have my screen on, but there's only 14 people who follow that page. And, um, like each post gets like maybe 2 likes. So it was a chance to kind of like show you this world that I've made and say, "Hey, like this is the story that happens in Snow Globe. This is the you've heard for the past 15 weeks now the story of Snow Globe. Here's another story that is completely connected to that, but also completely separate and lives on its own." And I just really wanted to talk about that today. So, uh, the funny part is, I can see that one viewer has been with us this whole time, and that viewer has been my iPad because I wanted to keep it on to see if there was any people like asking questions in the chat, um, because I had my screen shared. So I know that nobody is actually watching this, which is funny. But if you're watching this after the fact, I know it was a very long video. If you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Um, I'm I, I'm continuing to make this story and craft it, and it brings me a lot of joy to work on this. Getting to work on College Chronicles as both two different albums and and this whole story that like goes underneath the two albums, um, has been really cool. So I hope now that you have a better understanding of maybe some lines that you didn't understand in the album of Snow Globe. Hopefully, now you understand why the music video for Heading Out is the way it is, why the canvas for 19 is the way it is. Um, and also for some of the other canvases, like um, I know Two of Spades has me doing a card trick, but if you look, you can see the map of Savatas Picati with the dead end crossed out and said escape point. That's Kinnell. In the snow globe canvas, you can see me with the red flannel writing something and then having a snow globe and zooming it into the camera. That's the character Ethan writing the story and then like being like, look into the snow globe where you can see the world of Savatas Picati. Um, so I hope you have like go find the connections now. Like that's what I would implore you to do. If you've made it all the way this far through the live stream, it shows that you care, which is awesome. So go find the connections and then please tell me that you found them because like that would be really, really cool. Um, but in either case, the reason why I wrote this story and the reason why I made it was to creatively express the things that I was going through in a way that I've never done it before. Creating characters, creating a world. It was a really cool project. And I can confidently say that the story is not over. Obviously, the Snow Globe album is only Act 1 of College Chronicles. There will be an Act 2 in EJ5. Or I guess EJ5, my fifth album, will be Act 2 of College Chronicles. And along with that will be another act of this College Chronicles story with Kinnell, the Travelers, Nyack, and the world of Imagine Thomas, with Ethan as the writer and Somnium, where they can connect, and their timers, which are ticking down. So I think that's all I have to say today. I guess just at the end of the day, thank you. This whole Diving Deeper series has been fun and it's been very good and exciting for me to talk about this whole project that I've gotten to pour into for the last almost 3 years now. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy this. And I'm planning I want to try my best to keep the VOD up so that if anybody wants to come and watch this afterwards, they can. Um, I'm just going to check to see if there's anything else that I wanted to mention. I don't think there was. I went through the journal entries. Um, Let me just check the diving deeper script because I want to make sure I don't forget anything because I'm not going to go live again. Um, yeah, so as a recap, we did a little welcome thing. We went through College Chronicles Act 0, where I recapped the Memories trilogy with journal entry 0.5. And I established some of the concepts like the repeated dreams, somnium, Ethan Ader. We went through the Heading Out music video. We talked about the light bridge, how that creates the avatar in Imaginatonus, the first two journal entries, Kinnel, and then we went through all the journal entries and how they relate to the songs of Snow Globe. So that's it. That's all I had for my script for this. So I guess I'm gonna end it here. Um, there will I'll leave you with this. There's not going to be a lot that I'm going to post as a musician for the next many months. However, what you can expect going forward is a teaser or two here and there of new upcoming tracks. I'm going to be working on like the second act of the Kennel storyline this summer, and in the post that I'm going to do that says College Chronicles Act 1 is completed, it says the anticipated start for Act 2 is going to be January 31st, 2025. So that's when you can probably expect that EJ5, College Chronicles Act 2, and the Kennel storyline will pick up officially again. So I'll leave you on that. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Ethan Jermain. I'm a singer-songwriter. Go listen to Snow Globe. Go check this out. Go follow the College Chronicles Digital Journal Instagram page. And I will see you in the future. Remember, there is always an escape, no matter where you are. Follow the J. I will see you very, very soon.